This is the Japanese Switch game titled Sweika Game, or rather Watermelon Game in English. It is a fairly simple game about combining two of the same fruit to make a bigger one. Think of it like 2048 mixed with Tetris. You drop fruit into a box trying to make the biggest one you can until you overflow the box and game over. For most, this would be nothing more than a casual game to waste time with. Sweika Game is not a competitive game. It was never meant to be one. However, you earn points whenever you combine two fruit together to make a bigger one. And where there are points, there are leaderboards. And where there are leaderboards, you can bet that there will be some competition. Within Sweika Game, the smallest fruit is the cherry. Next up is the strawberry, then a grape, then a decapon, which is a type of orange, persimmon, an apple, a Japanese pear, a peach, a pineapple, a melon, and lastly, the biggest fruit of them all, and the game's namesake, the watermelon. Recently, this watermelon game has gained wild amounts of popularity. This Games Radar article describes it as an Among Us grade viral boom, and it's not wrong. Because this is not a new game. This is a game from 2021. Why did it now suddenly get so popular? Despite many playing it on the Switch, Sweika Game was not originally a Switch game. It was instead a game made specifically by the company Pop-In Aladdin to be played on their own product, an in-home hybrid projector that also served as a ceiling light. The game became available on the projector's built-in Aladdin store on the 14th of April 2021, with the Switch version of the game only being released on the 9th of December later that same year. Being a projector/ceiling light exclusive game meant that understandably the game wasn't exactly that well known, although there are some recordings on YouTube of people playing the game back in 2021. One of the first recordings of someone playing this game is by the YouTube user Mumemo, who uploaded a full run of themselves getting a high score of 6,411 points on April 23rd, 2021. They would later upload partial runs showing them achieving high scores of 7,932 and 8,200. At the time though, that was basically it. People would share themselves playing this game because of the novelty of being able to play a game on a projector. Fast forward 2 years though, and we can find one of the first people to popularize the game. The Japanese streamer Futon-chan, who primarily streams on the Japanese website openrec.tv, streamed themselves playing the projector version of the game on the 2nd of May 2023. Viewers were entertained by the game, getting excited whenever a new fruit was made. A few months later, on September 7th, Futon-chan would revisit the game again, this time on the much more accessible Switch version of the game. Now that there was a way to play the game without having to have a projector, and streaming the game didn't require pointing a camera at the wall, this would open the floodgates to many more getting interested in the game. Days after this stream, Oekaki would stream the Switch version of the game on OpenRec for 15 hours in one stream, cementing the idea that the game was truly addictive. So far, popularity of the game was mainly through the OpenRec streamers or their highlight videos on YouTube. But on the 11th of September 2023, Japanese YouTuber Moko would upload a Let's Play of the game, with the title roughly translating to "The 240 yen game about just making watermelons is too addictive." The day after Moko's video, another popular YouTuber, Sawayan, would upload his own Let's Play of the Sweika game, specifically referencing Moko as the reason he discovered the game.
昨日実はモコ先生がこのゲームのゲーム実況を上げてて、めちゃくちゃおもろそうだなと思ってやりたくなりました。
As more YouTubers released videos of the game, its rankings only increased, reaching Japan's top 10 Nintendo Switch download rankings on the 14th of September, only to enter the top 3 on the very next day. Now, that last thumbnail I showed was of Sanazame, who was specifically playing with the aim of reaching 3,000 points. This would be the first of many who would later adopt the endurance stream until X points trend, with 3,000 often being the score of choice, as it was a decently high enough score to require at least one watermelon being made. This challenge of reaching 3,000 points is a self-imposed challenge. However, whenever you are playing, there is a leaderboard in the lower left-hand side of the screen. This can be chosen to show either the highest scores during that day, month, or of all time, either from the user or globally. This is how the scoring system works. You get points whenever you merge two fruit together, with bigger fruit resulting in more points. You do not, however, get any points for simply dropping a fruit into the box. And no bonus points are awarded for whatever fruit you have left in the box when you game over. So this begs the question, who has the highest score in Sweika game? Even though I earlier mentioned Mumemo uploaded a recording of them achieving 8,200 points, it's not a full run, and in fact, within that video, they are only ranked 20th with that score. The highest on the leaderboard at the time had a score of 8,689, although in their original first video, which had a 6-month gap, the highest score shown was 9,536 points. And in another video uploaded by Hummer HIT on the 19th of September, this would show the final part of their run achieving a score of 7,927, where yet again, the scoreboard shows a different high score of 9,576. So how these rankings were stored is unclear, and full runs of these scores don't appear to exist online. Instead, right now, if you try and search for the highest score in the game with a full run, you'll find this video uploaded on the 27th of September 2023 by the user Pino. Pino had been playing the game since February of 2023, and as such, clearly knew what they were doing with their strategy. From the start of the game, they have the largest fruit to one side of the box and prioritize having the smallest fruits on the top layer, merging any of the small fruit that happen to fall into the gaps, which could later prevent fruit from merging. Once the chosen fruit has been decided on, they set up a chain reaction to increase the size of the biggest fruit. Eventually, Pino manages to make 2 melons while dangerously close to overflowing the box. However, they are unable to touch to create a watermelon because of the small cherry and strawberry between them. So, a third melon would need to be made. Using the left side of the box as a dumping ground for unwanted fruit, the right side is used to slowly grow another melon. However, with so much space being taken up by the 2 melons, it greatly reduces the amount of room available to the player. With the fruit so close to overflowing the box, Pino sees a risky play. Currently, they have a grape in their hand, and their next fruit is also a grape. They are going to drop both grapes back to back in hopes of instantly creating a decapon. Unfortunately though, they don't merge in time and roll to the opposite side. And now, it's all up to luck of getting either another decapon or a persimmon as the only way to merge with the ones already in play. They place everything else they have wherever there is space until finally a decapon, and better yet, right after that, a persimmon, which causes a massive chain reaction to finally get a watermelon. But with the first watermelon made, that just clears up the box for more fruit to be dropped. With a melon already in play, Pino decides to go for a second watermelon. A trick that Pino uses fairly often in this run is the fact that the fruit move around even when nothing is done. With the fruit slowly spinning and pushing each other around over time, Pino uses this to their advantage by creating a strawberry next to one of the persimmons, and then waiting for them to slowly push towards each other to cause a chain reaction that would eventually lead to a pineapple being made. One more pineapple, and that's 2 watermelons. Pino does eventually get the 2 peaches needed to create a pineapple, but they are on opposite sides. Eventually though, they are able to get the right fruit needed to create another 2 peaches, and with one final drop of a grape, after this, Pino plays the game out normally and ends off with the highest recorded full run score of 7,557. Except there's something about this run. Maybe you could tell from the video, but this was played on the projector version of the game. Why does this matter? Despite the projector version and the Switch version both being made by the same company, there are some key differences between the games which can heavily affect the scoring. When Pino created 2 watermelons, they simply stayed in the box, whereas in the Switch version, if 2 watermelons touch, they reward the player points and also both disappear, which can give the player a lot more space to work with to get a higher score. The movement of the fruit in the box are also toned down significantly in the Switch version too, so the technique of waiting for fruit to combine on their own isn't as useful. However, a new quirk of the Switch version has led to fruit being launched when others are combined, which could lead to some untimely game overs. Pino themselves would also go on to compare the sizes of the box within the 2 versions of the game and found that they were different. The projector version having a box dimension of 668 pixels by 770, while the Switch version has a box that is 620 pixels wide by 783 pixels tall. Aside from having the obvious advantage of having a bigger area to work with in the projector version, another impact is that although the increase in height of the box may make things slightly easier for the Switch player, the loss in horizontal space makes it much harder to merge fruit together as they are more likely to create layers of separation between them. And lastly, probably the most important difference is that the Switch version and projector version have different scoring methods, meaning that if we take the score of 7,557 and convert it into the Switch version scoring, it would result in a much lower score instead. So high scores between the two different versions of the game can't really be compared as there are too many differences between them. Though one could argue that Pino does still have the highest recorded full run in the projector version of the game. The person considered to have the highest score in Sweeper Game, specifically the Switch version, is the user Nemu. Nemu first streamed themselves playing the game on the 11th of September 2023, just as the game was getting popular. 3 days later, he would then stream the game again, this time with the self-imposed challenge of aiming to get 2 watermelons at once. He would stream the game daily on Twitch, at least 2 hours every day playing the game, until on the 29th of September 2023, he had this run. Prior to this, Nemu's best score was 3,841, but right away at the start of the run, you could tell he knew what he was doing. Similar to Pino, Nemu has the same general strategy of making one big fruit that sits to one side of the box while having the next biggest fruit nearby and the smaller fruit further away. But soon, we begin to see how Nemu shows his expertise in the game. One of the first techniques being shown is the concept of pushing. Right now, Nemu has an apple sitting on top of a peach, separated from the rest of the fruit. He uses a cherry and places it on top of the apple to the left, and the weight of the cherry pushes the apple into the center. The cherry is one of the best fruit to use for this concept of pushing other fruit around. Not only is it small, which makes it easy to fit into different places, it is also the heaviest of the fruit, because the bigger the fruit gets, the lighter it is. Which is why you will often see that when a bigger fruit is made, it'll be easily pushed around until it settles on top of all of the other fruit, before it finally settles down. At the 855 point mark, although Nemu has a great setup to make a melon here with a chain on the left side, there are a lot of fruit to the right. So, instead, he takes this opportunity to neaten things up by merging a lot of these fruit together. This will be a common theme throughout this run, where Nemu prioritizes having as few unnecessary fruit as possible on the screen, which is understandable as these not only take up valuable space, but could also prevent potential mergers between other fruit from occurring, or worse, risk getting launched out of the box. Once the melon is created, the new fruit on the right side start to push the melon up the left wall, so Nemu tries to prevent this by pushing it down with other fruit. But later, as the melon starts to sink back down to the bottom, the fruit used to weigh it down come dangerously close to falling through to the bottom of the box. So Nemu is quick to merge them together and make them big enough to not be lost, and also preventing them from pushing the melon up from below. Thanks to making sure that there are minimal trash and keeping a clean floor, once Nemu gets a melon and a pineapple at around the 1500 point mark, they are in the perfect position. They sink right to the bottom of the box, leaving optimal space above for more fruit to be placed. Throughout the run, Nemu also shows amazing foresight. Just before reaching 1700 points, he has a Decapon in his hand. What he could do is he could drop it into the center, making a persimmon that can merge with the one already there. This would then create an apple. That would also leave the Decapon below it very difficult to reach. So instead, he drops the Decapon to the side and uses a cherry to push the two Decapon already in the middle together, making an apple while also clearing out some trash. Later, at the 1855 score point, he gets a cherry with no good place to put it. He's already used the top of the persimmon on the left as a place to hold one small fruit, so he drops it in the gap between the pear and the apple. After creating a grape on the left side and seeing that he has a back-to-back strawberry, he acts quickly and drops both as fast as possible to create another grape and merge them into a Decapon. Had he hesitated even for a moment, that first strawberry would have fallen from the top and the second grape would have been created in the middle of the box. He can then push this newly created Decapon into the middle with a strawberry. Shortly after this, Nemu sets up a brilliant chain reaction to create his first watermelon.
Yoshi yoshi. Oh, いいね.
This watermelon gets pushed to the side of the box into a prime position with minimal amounts of trash fruit. And in fact, to further clean up the small fruit, although he could drop a persimmon to create an apple, he chooses instead to place it above the watermelon and uses the upcoming cherry to merge with the one already in play. Another technique Nemu uses often is smart positioning of how he drops the fruit to change how they merge. Although there is no hold mechanic like in Tetris, oftentimes he keeps the fruit stacked on the side, effectively saving it for later, as in the case here with the Decapon on top of a large stack. But with a persimmon in the middle and another Decapon in hand, now would be the perfect time to have them both be in the center. So Nemu drops his Decapon such that the two have a contact point that is far enough left that the resulting fruit rolls down the left side into the middle, freeing the fruit from their holding spot. This works because when two fruit merge, the resulting fruit is always centered around the point at which the two smaller fruit contact each other. If he had simply placed the Decapon on top of each other, they would have merged on the right side of the pair's highest point and stayed on the right side, not rolling down. Of note though is that if any other fruit is within the zone that would be occupied by the new fruit, they would get shoved out of the way to make space. This can sometimes lead to the launching of smaller fruit, which, if you are unlucky, may result in a game over. Once Nemu gets a melon created, things start to get difficult. With less than half of the box available, he needs to somehow create a second melon. With the fruit stacked so high, Nemu can't risk storing unwanted fruit on the sides, and right now, he has a persimmon, which could be crucial for creating some bigger fruit. But if he were to drop that into the center right now, it would cover a cherry, strawberry, and a grape, making it extremely difficult to get rid of them later. But he can see that he has a grape coming up. This is where Nemu comes up with the plan. He releases it on top of a pear in such a way that it will have to travel a further distance to roll into the center. While it is traveling, this gives him enough time to reposition, and he drops the grape straight down to merge into a Decapon, which still has an exposed surface, allowing future mergers. At the 32-36 score point, Nemu makes an incredibly risky play. Right now, he has a Decapon, and next up is a persimmon. He could drop the Decapon off to the right and then merge the persimmons together to make an apple in the center. However, instead, he could also use the Decapon to create a whole new persimmon at the top of the box, saving the next persimmon for a better position. But the current Decapon is so close to the top of the box, and remember that when combined, the new fruit is created at the point where the two fruit touch. If Nemu places this Decapon too far to the right, it will roll down and not merge. If he places it too far to the left, the contact point will be too high up, with the resulting persimmon overflowing the box, causing a game over. He has to drop this at the perfect spot. And so, he lines up his shot. Unfortunately though, the resulting two pairs aren't able to touch, which means he has to try and use the limited space available to make yet another pair. At this point, it arguably comes down to the luck of the draw on what fruit Nemu gets. As more fruit stack up, he stacks any trash he gets on the left side, while Decapon and persimmons are placed on the right, hoping to create another pair as soon as possible. Not wanting to drop small fruit in the middle in fear that it would block merges, he once again gets dangerously close to overflowing the box by merging fruit right at the top. However, luck was on his side though, as after that, he finally gets a persimmon, and next up, a Decapon. Had that Decapon come first, it would have almost certainly been a game over, as there is nowhere else he would have been able to place that without causing the box to overflow. And so, he drops the persimmon, making sure it's at the perfect spot to not merge in a bad place. This causes a chain reaction that nearly flings the cherry out of the box, but also results in a pineapple and some much needed breathing room. Later, while trying to create a peach, Nemu has the classic setup of cherry, strawberry, grape, all adjacent to each other. And he has another cherry to slot in to merge them all together, but it is unable to push past the persimmon above it. However, with another cherry being available, instead of combining it with the one he just dropped, he uses the cherry for what it's best at, hitting other fruit. Soon after, he creates a peach with what remained on the left, and a lot of the smaller fruit falls neatly into the center point between all of the big fruit. One more peach, and a second watermelon will be created. Instead of using the currently available left side, Nemu instead opts to push the peach to the side and use the center to create the next peach, as there's more space over there. But despite using the middle as the place to drop all of the fruits, and also the place where the first apple appears, Nemu actually decides to make the first pair on the right, as he was concerned that creating a pair in the middle would launch the fruit above it outside of the box. Now, all that was left to do for Nemu was to simply just make one more pair.
いくぞ、頼む、祈ってくれ。くっつけよ、くっつけよ。くっつけ、頼む、頼む、頼む、本当に頼む、本当に。来た、よっしゃ。初めてゲームで泣いた。しかもさ、ちょうどさ、オンラインランキングがさ、リセットされてさ、俺多分これ1位いけるわ、総合。だってもう1位だもん。やったー、俺が1位だ。世界1位だ、俺が。
It would be a while before Nemu would carry on with this run, but finally, after 2 weeks of playing the game every day, with over 160 hours spent playing the game at 2:50 a.m. Japanese Standard Time on September 29th, 2023, with hundreds of people watching him, Nemu had finally achieved what he had set out to do. Despite finally achieving his goal of getting 2 watermelons though, when the 2 watermelons touched, they did reward Nemu with 66 points and more importantly, they both vanished, clearing up the box. This meant that the run could continue, and so, it did. Approaching 5,300 points, once again we get to see Nemu use another trick, momentum. With a cherry in hand and one in play, he wants to merge them into a strawberry, and so, by dropping the cherry onto the decapon and having it roll over the original cherry, the strawberry forms with momentum towards the center of the box. Had he just dropped it on top of the cherry or tried to have them merge as far left as possible, both would have resulted in the strawberry not being able to roll over the top of the melon. Nemu gets his 3rd watermelon of the run as he approaches the 6,000 point mark. Unfortunately though, it gets pushed up on top of a decapon, which is not ideal, as this causes a lot of space to be lost. This problem only gets worse as Nemu continues to grow fruit on the right side, as the watermelon is pushed up even further along the wall as the fruit on the right grow bigger. In an attempt to clear some of the trash later, Nemu would attempt to go for another staggered drop, dropping the grape to merge into a decapon while having the strawberry fall into the gap made the moment the grapes merge. This would unfortunately not work, and the strawberry would remain uncleared. That strawberry would then go on to prevent 2 pineapples from touching, meaning that Nemu would have to use roughly only a third of the box to make another pineapple, and likely would not be able to clear away that bottom one until he gets another double watermelon. He would manage to create a 3rd pineapple, but because of a few cherries pushing their way through, Nemu is denied a melon once again. Eventually though, Nemu would end things off by dropping a cherry on top of one of the pineapples. Nemu's final score? 7,355. Almost double the score of the person in 2nd place. After the stream, Nemu posted 2 videos, one of him getting the double watermelons, which included his live commentary and chat, as well as an uncommentated version of his full run, both of which garnered millions of views within weeks. Starting on the 1st of October 2023, he would also begin to stream his gameplay on YouTube instead of Twitch, where prior to uploading his Sweaker game videos, he only had 622 subscribers. He now has over 25,000 subscribers. He at one point had over 42,000 people watching him as he tries to beat his high score on YouTube. He's even garnered the attention of Hikakin, one of the biggest YouTubers in Japan, who sent a super chat to encourage Nemu in his endeavor to get a new high score. He has come close several times, at one point almost getting another double watermelon during his run on the 16th of October, where an attempted shift to create a chain reaction that would have resulted in a peach unfortunately led to a game over with a final score of 7,227. And he says that he still won't give up trying to beat that high score. There are others aiming to make their mark on the Sweaker game leaderboards though, and it's not just Japanese streamers, even some Western streamers have started to try the game out too. But when most people play it, they are simply setting challenges for themselves to get over 3,000 points, or simply just getting a watermelon. But as the game becomes more popular and more people start to play, finding the person with the highest score becomes increasingly more difficult, as several high-scoring runs are shown on the leaderboards, but most of these runs lack the video evidence to prove that they are legitimate. There could very well be someone who has a higher score than Nemu, but they simply don't want to upload their gameplay. But as it stands right now, Nemu can still claim to be one of the best Suika game players in the world. But the game is still relatively fresh, and starting from the 20th of October 2023, the Switch version of Suika game was no longer limited to Japanese accounts. So will Nemu be able to beat his own world record? Or will someone new rise to the challenge? Only time will tell. Until then though, thank you for watching.